What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to build a homemade septic tank. Now we're going to build this and show the theory behind it. You are responsible for checking the legality of using a system like this in your area. So if you choose to copy anything I do here, you do it at your own risk. Let's build this and we'll show you how it works. So here's a diagram of how this works. So your water and poo comes from the house into your first tote here. So this first tote is to separate the solids and the liquids. So this 45-degree angle here is just to help direct the solids down to the bottom of the tank, where bacteria will start to work to eat them up. But now this water, we need to go to the next tank. So we have this trap here to help keep the solids from going into the next tank, as well as to keep the scum from going into the next tank. So the solids and the scum, if they get into the next tank and into the lateral line, will plug up the lateral lines eventually. Now there will be a little bit that goes into the next tank, but we have the capacity for some to build up on the bottom here. So that water will go to the next tank, drop down here, and then we have another 90-degree trap to help keep that stuff from getting into those lateral lines. Now the point of mounting the lateral line exit in the second tank lower than we did the other two lines is to, when under heavy usage where lots of water is flowing through here, we have a lot of capacity for all this water to build up here and not stress our lateral lines too much with draining it fast. As long as the usage will slow down eventually, these lateral lines will have time to drain back down and be ready for the next heavy usage. So when you're sourcing your totes to build your septic tanks, you have a couple of common options. So this big one right here, that is a 330-gallon one, and these smaller ones you see right here, they are 275 gallons apiece. Depending on what your intended use is, like say hypothetically if you're just going to run a toilet and a sink and an occasional shower, probably 2 totes like this would probably be okay. Let's do a little nose picking math. That would be a capacity of about 550 gallons. That's not too bad, not great though. And another important note is you need at least 2 tanks, and the purpose for that is you'll need a solid tank and a water tank. Now for this build, I'll be using all 4 of these tanks, and unfortunately this is the odd man out. Being 330 gallons, he's sized different than the others, but I got all of these for free and you can't complain about that. Depending on how many tanks you decide to use, you're probably going to grab your 10-foot long 4-inch pipe. Also, you're going to want to grab a mess of elbows. So I'll show you exactly where we'll be using these, but I got 2 45s like this, and I got 4 90s. Get your pipe glue, got a little bit of spray foam, and got some silicone and some galvanized wire. Now I've already connected those 2 tanks together with some 4-inch pipe. Let me show you how I'm going to connect these other 2 tanks together. I'll lop you off about a foot length of that 4-inch pipe to connect these 2 tanks. Now do a little bit of eyeball measuring. We're going to have this go straight through. If you're using a 275-gallon tank, we'll be working in the top grid of this first connection. Now the actual outside diameter of this 4-inch pipe is 4.5 inches. So ideally you want a 4.5-inch hole saw bit. Now I don't have a 4.5-inch hole saw bit, and I'm not going to buy one, but I got this 4-inch bit. I'm going to drill the hole out and then finish the round with a razor blade. Multi-tool worked a lot better than a razor blade. So on your pipe here, you want to mark the center so you can see it. Just rough center anyways. We're going to go ahead and put that in. So part of the reason that we cut this pipe a foot long, which is actually longer than we need to connect these 2 tanks together, is so I can get the pipe started on both totes into the hole and then silicone up all my seams really good and then push the two totes together. And looking at my middle mark here, I'll be able to reference that to make sure that this pipe is spaced pretty evenly between them. Okay, got those pushed together and gooped up pretty good. Now to keep my pipe even, distance between the two tanks, I had to slip some channel locks in there and adjust it a little bit. So now I'm gonna go ahead and tie all 4 totes together, regular old wire. If you look here, I'll just be doing something like that. Okay, all the totes are wired together on the sides and the top. I need to cut 6 10-inch long sections of the 4-inch pipe. Time to install our inlet pipes. So, as we're looking at this side of everything, these 2 tanks will both be the solid tanks. And the previous plumbing you watched me do was connecting this tank and the rear tank. So, these front 2 tanks that we're looking at are both connected to the tank behind it. I will only have 1 sewage pipe coming out of the building. There will be a Y in here before it gets to each tank. Now on both of these pipes, I need to be able to install an elbow on the inside of the tank. So I'm just measuring and marking about 4 inches on this pipe. So I'm going to install this pipe about 4 inches into the tank. Got those gooped up pretty nice. Got the holes covered for now. So let's go to the outlet of our liquids tank. So back here. So on this side of the totes will be the side that goes out to the drain field or the lateral lines, whatever you want to call them. So on the outlets on this tank, instead of mounting them up high like this, like we did on the inlet, and also the in-between between the 2 tanks, we want to mount lower in the grid. That way the liquid tanks are always draining. Now, what I'm doing for this tank setup is I'm going to be installing 2 per tote, and those will go directly out to the lateral lines. On these outlet pipes that will go to the drain field, I'm going to install them from the inside of the tote. So how this works is we need our 90-degree elbow mounted on that short leg. Now we're going to have to drill some holes here to keep it from getting airlocked. What this is going to do is be our baffle to help keep solids and scum from going out into the drain field. So it'll be installed just like this inside of the tank. Top side of all the 90s, I'll drill 2 half-inch holes just like that. Might draw you some lines on there so you know exactly where the top of the pipe is, but now you can look down in there and see how that curves down. So the liquid tanks are done. Back to the solid tanks now. It's time to install our elbows. So we'll be installing 145 on the inlet to the solids tank. Now we don't want to forget to drill our vent holes, as well as our 90s that will be mounted at the exit of the solid tank that will then lead into the liquid tank. So let me give you a look at what that looks like inside of one of the solid tanks. Got the 90 and the 45 inlet. Now, the inlet to the liquids tank doesn't need any kind of fitting, but we just have that T on the outlet to keep anything from going out into the lines. Now to help with rigidity of the pipes being connected to this plastic tote, I'm going to spray foam around all of the connections to help kind of stiffen them up. All done. So with these 4 tanks, that gives roughly 1,000-gallon capacity. Some final notes on the tote septic system theory. Before burying them, once you set them in the hole, you'll want to fill them with water. That's to help keep the soil pressure from collapsing the tote. Also, another note, it's a good idea to wrap all this with something not wood, and preferably also not steel, that will degrade over time. So maybe some old carpet or something like that you can wrap the sides with. Also, across the top, there's going to be quite a bit of pressure on top of this, so we don't want this collapsing from that, just from foot traffic, and also there'll be about a foot of soil on top of this. You'll want to run some kind of braces across here to help carry the load of the soil that will be on top of this. So maybe some angle iron, something aluminum would be best. Also, to access all of the caps for a future clean out, you want to just go to Lowe's and buy one of these sprinkler manhole covers and just mount this right on top like that, and that'll provide easy access in the future. Well, I hope this video helped someone if they were just interested in how a tote septic system would work, and I hope I fulfilled your curiosity. Well, we'll catch you guys next time.
Keep thinking.